about FileAID Eclipse you need to know. Before we begin today's presentation, there are a few housekeeping items that I'd like to address. Maximize the slide area. Click on the full screen mode icon at the top right corner of the slide area. For an optimal viewing experience, please ensure that you have checked system requirements along with bandwidth considerations. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the help link located via the question mark widget at the bottom left of your screen, where you will find details about system requirements and frequently asked questions. If you experience a blank screen during the webcast, please try refreshing your browser or pressing F5. To ask questions during today's presentation, please type your questions into the Q&A widget and hit Submit. We'll answer as many questions as time allows. Also, notice the Learn More widget. Here, we've added a link to Compuware's blog, Inside Tech Talk, where you can read a newly published post that provides a nice overview of the FileAID Eclipse features. Make sure to subscribe to Inside Tech Talk so you receive a weekly email linking to our newest blog posts. Also included in the Learn More widget are a link to the next upcoming webcast in our Did You Know series, Protecting Sensitive Data with Ease, on July 20th, as well as a copy of today's slide presentation. We also encourage everyone to fill out our survey before the end of today's presentation, and by submitting your response, you will automatically be entered to win a $50 American Express gift card. There will be 3 lucky winners from today's respondents. We are extremely pleased to have as our speakers today Compuware Solution Consultant Robin Fuller and Product Manager Kevin Corbett. With that, I'd now like to welcome and hand things over to Robin. Robin?
Thank you, Janet. Hello, everyone. Today's agenda, FileAID Eclipse, top 10 cool features. So let's go through them in order. Number 1, we can browse and edit VSAM files and DB2 tables simultaneously. We can also use some column filtering and sorting to be able to see just very specific data. We can freeze or unfreeze columns and have things stay in place on our screen. We can select fields, just certain fields for display when you are in an edit or a browse. You can save and easily reuse those FileAID Eclipse requests when we're requesting what we want to edit or browse. Number 6, easy hex editing of data. Number 7, graphical file compare results. Searching for data patterns across multiple files and seeing a results listing of those. Being able to allocate new data sets easily. And number 10, the host-to-host dataset copy. So what is FileAID Eclipse, right? So Topaz data manipulation features allow us to edit and browse multiple file types, PDF members and DB2 tables and IMS databases, QSAM files, flat files, VSAM files, all of those standard mainframe data types that we're working with. So within the Topaz for Enterprise Data feature, we can also edit related database information, right? Data is data is kind of our mantra there. So it gives us that consistent look and feel across all of the different data types.
And Robin, I think it's important for us to point out to everyone who's listening in how they go about getting these features within Topaz Workbench. As part of your FileAID licensed products, so FileAID MVS, FileAID for IMS, FileAID for DB2, these are automatically activated within Topaz Workbench as long as you are licensed and configured for them. As Robin pointed out, the Enterprise Data feature add-on gives you the ability to go after distributed data as well, which she'll present a little bit later.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, so let's start with number 1 of our 10 cool features, the basic edit and browse. So right here we're looking at a VSAM file in vertical format. So we can easily edit and browse VSAM or sequential files within a nice graphical interface. And we can still use the copybooks to map the data into, nice readable display format, or we could view the data in character mode. So here we're looking at, not only did I still have my VSAM file up in my display, but now I've opened up data from a DB2 table. So if you see across the top, they're both kind of lined up within tabs. You can have multiple files or multiple tables open at once and navigate between them using the tabs across the bottom. I mean, imagine trying to have 5 different files open with FileAID on the mainframe and ISPS, right? It's so much easier here within Topaz. And you can drag these views around. So here I've got my VSAM file on the left, DB2 table over side by side. So I can move those tabs around, have things side by side, or top and bottom. Now, if you're one of those lucky people that have multiple monitors, you can drag them off the framework and onto another monitor, or put them back, kind of together by lining them up with the tabs. So not only VSAM and DB2, but now we're looking at opening up an IMS data edit session as well, right? Data's data. So we can easily browse those IMS databases through the same graphical interface. And then here, anytime you're in an edit or a browse session, or actually almost anywhere within Topaz itself, right-click is your friend, right? So if you click on a row of data, right-click, then you can see a list of all the available commands to you. Here I'm showing the navigation commands for moving around within an IMS database. One of the commands also is all your standard edit and browse commands, plus an export command. We can export data as well. Moving on to number 2, our second cool feature is column filtering and sorting. So, as if I could right-click on the row to get a list of commands, you can right-click on the columns to get a list of commands there as well. But another really cool feature is this filtering. So if you look at the top of the data, there's a row there that's called filter. So here you can input filter. So notice I've got a filter and I'm looking at all of the open orders, right? And then I can put another filter on. I only want to see the open work orders. And I can put filters on or off in any different order and just very quickly kind of narrow in on just the data that you're interested in for this particular edit session. So number 3, freezing and unfreezing columns, right? Right-click on a column, tell it you want to freeze some columns, select which columns you want to freeze. And then those columns would stay on the left-hand side of the screen as you scroll through the data, moving right and left. So how did we get into those edit and browse screens, right? So from the Host Explorer in the left-hand tree view, you have your list of data sets, and you can right-click on one of those or just double-click on it, and it will open up the edit request. So here you specify the data set name, you can specify the copybook to map the data out with, and then it will load that copybook information for you. So if you only want to select specific fields, right, of data within your browser edit session, then here you can check or uncheck the boxes within the layout there to determine which fields you want to display. So you can also determine which records to access based on the specific data values under the Conditions tab there in the middle, or you can apply record counts and limits, right? Give me just the first 100 or every 10th record under the Options tab. And then you click Run to load the Edit or Browse screens. So number 5, being able to save and easily reuse those FileAID Eclipse requests. So once you create these requests, you can save them and manage your favorites or those that you might use on a regular basis, right? So notice in my favorites that not only are we looking at requests for the mainframe data types, but also distributed databases, such as SQL Server, Oracle, and DB2LUW. Again, data is data.
One other important note regarding the request, Robin, that we should probably highlight is the fact that you can control the number of requests that are saved in the preferences. And you simply do that by going and selecting Windows, Preferences, Compuware, and then you drill down for File-AID Eclipse. And there's a number of preferences that can be set. This controls all of the requests that you've saved, regardless of whether it be for the mainframe data or the distributed data, as Robin just pointed out. Again, There are preferences that you can set there that are very valuable.
Excellent. Thanks for that tip. And we move on to number 6, easy hex editing of data. So we all love looking at our data in Hex, right? And even though we're in a graphical interface, FileAID still allows you that in-depth view with this, nice 3-line hexadecimal mode. So we can simply toggle this view on or off with a hex icon there at the top right. And here we're looking at it in layout formatted mode, or you can switch over to the unformatted mode as well. Right? If you're familiar with FileAID for NVS, it's kind of like the vertical formatted and character mode. And we can see the data in Hex in either of those modes. So number 7, our graphical file compare. So FileAID NVS has compare functionality, as you're all aware, I'm sure. So we've taken that file compare and put it now available within Topaz. So it's very easy to set up. We just right-click, right, or simply highlight 2 files within our Host Explorer view and our tree view there on the left, and then click on Compare with FileAID. And these are the results. So because we're working in a GUI environment, right, we can now see a very colorful representation of the results from the compare. So at the high-level summary there on the left, you'll see the file names, how many records from each file were compared in the bar graph, and the amount of differences. And then the differences are broken out into the number of records that had changes, the number of records that were inserted or deleted from each of the files. And then we can click on any of these links to drill down further into there. So Kevin, did you want to say something there as well?
Yes, I did. I wanted to make sure that we're pointing out that there's a couple of different features with what we've gone through. Robin took the simple compare and compared 2 files, and those were 2 like files, and she used a layout. You don't have to use a layout. If you just want to compare the data without a layout, you can do that. Also, you can specify only certain fields. So, if, for example, if she only wanted to have compared the employee number, employee first name, and last name, which are fields defined in that particular file, she could have done that, and then the variable would have only compared those fields. So that's a very nice feature. You can also specify various limits, how many differences you want us to detect before we stop comparing, just for a number of reasons. And also you can specify selection criteria. So if you only want to compare records of people from the state of Ohio, you can do that. So those are some nice features that have been built into the Topaz compare as well.
Yes, lots of functionality within there. So let's take a look at these detailed results. So here we can see the data from those records that had changes. So at the top, I see those records, and if you click on one of those records, then in the bottom half of the screen, you see the differences between the old and the new record, the old and the new data set. And I can see those here. We're looking at the differences side by side. There's a little button there on the right that I could click if I wanted to see it top and bottom. Right? We got this nice graphical interface, so we're using it for multiple type of views. And then at the top right, I can also filter in or out which records we're looking at. So here we're just showing you all the changed records, but notice with the little plus sign, I could look at all of the inserted records, or the little red X, I could see all of the deleted records, and I can toggle those in and out and see just very specific ones. And that's our 7th cool feature within FileAID Eclipse, is the graphical file compare. And number 8 on our list is using the search. So here we can search for data patterns across multiple files. So this is a very powerful search functionality from FileAID MBS, and it's been added into Topaz. So from the main menu, you can select Search, FileAID Search, and here you can search across multiple files and file types in a single search. So notice we're going to look for a string num, right, NUM, in a VSAM file, a sequential file, and in a PDF. So the ability to search over multiple file types is a really nice feature.
Thank you, Robin. I was muted, so thank you for picking it up.
You're welcome.
Sorry about that. You know, sometimes there are glitches in my things. The nice feature is that it allows you to search an entire product set of libraries. So if you wanted to search your source libraries, your data libraries, your layout libraries, or whatever types, and you're looking for something like, for example, num, as in Robin's example, you can do that. It'll cover all of the different file types at the same time, giving you a nice result set that you can then act upon.
Excellent, Kevin. Yeah, and let's take a look at that result set. Right, so here's our search results. So it opens up a new search tab. And with any of these tabs, if you double click on the tab, it'll maximize that particular screen for you, just as a little hint. So within our list of search results, I can also expand any or all of the results. And if you wanted to, use this as a working list, right? So if I needed to make changes to something and I wanted to do those changes individually, I could use this as a working list, click it, make my change, and then come back and delete that item from my list, right? And just keep working until I've worked my way all the way up. So there's other ways to make changes also, aren't there?
I'm sorry, I was muted again. Yes. If you're looking at, if you get that list, there's a couple of things you can do. I mean, you can double-click on one of the items that's found, and it'll open up one of the many editors that are found within Topaz Workbench, including the data editors. So that makes it very convenient. If you're looking for something and you only want to change it in one place, maybe you're changing the length of a field and you find that it's not been changed in one particular program or something to that effect. But if you're doing search, just as within FileAID on the green screen, you can do a search and update at the same time. So if you know, based on your search results, that you want to change everything that was found, you can actually go back to that search request and tell it to update. And once again, it would give you the opportunity to preview it before you did it, or you could just say, update it, I know this is what I want, and you can go out and update every single one of the lines that have been identified for change. So that's a very nice and powerful feature. Very simple to use within Topaz, a little more complicated in the green screen.
Yes, and it does have all the functionality though. So here, speaking of, going back to that search request, so if we want to do a little more advanced search, right? So here I've got, we can add in and or conditions, put in a little more complex logic as far as what it is that we're searching for. We could also click and say update that if we wanted to. So in this particular example, I'm going to search across a couple of JCL PDSs, right, my JCL libraries. And because I know that I'm searching in JCL, notice in the bottom left, there's a little button down there that says Process as JCL. So if I click on that, then it'll change how we're looking at the results. So if we take a look at those, so instead of a single line item for where it actually found my results, when we're processing in JCL, it's just looking at the data as logical statements instead of physical records. So here it'll show us the entire DD statement that contains the search results, right? So it helps give us a little more context, right, within that JCL of what we're looking at and what our results are actually showing us. So that's the search capability. Please use it. It's a wonderful, full-featured functionality. And that's number 8. So number 9, allocating new data sets. So how cool is this, right? You can just right-click on a data set, select Allocate Like, change the name of your data set, right, for your new data set name, either accept the allocation parameters or of the original one or make changes, and then hit Enter. It really is easy as 1, 2, 3.
And another thing you can do there, Robin, I think that's good to point out, is it's if you right-click on that and you say Copy To will pop up a dialog that allows you to change the data set names, and will allocate them and optionally copy the data if you want. So it's a very, very powerful feature. It's another way to allocate data sets and copy your data at the same time. Again, you can specify selection criteria if you'd like to, so you can reduce that number of records you're taking from the original file, depending on what your needs are. Very powerful feature.
Excellent. And once you do that, whether you're doing a Copy To or doing an Allocate Like, you get the little message, your data set has now been allocated, right, or allocated and copied to. So now we've got a newly allocated data set. So just refresh your list to see it shown in the tree view there on the left. And then that brings us to, ta-da, number 10 on our cool things of FileAID Eclipse, the host-to-host data copy. So how often have you struggled, right, trying to move a data set from one LPAR to another? You know, FTP, NDM, IND dollar file, you know, writing your own program. How about just drag and drop? Get much simpler than that. So move one data set or multiple data sets between systems, even systems without shared DASD. It's a simple right-click, copy, paste it into the other LPAR configuration listed in your tree view, or just drag and drop them, right, into PDSs or the files where you want it to go. And it will give you the option to be able to rename those data sets or keep the same names on that other LPAR. So those were our top 10 cool features, right? Just as a quick recap, being able to browse and edit files, DB2 tables, IMS data, through the FileAID products on the mainframe. If you have the enterprise data editor, being able to also browse those distributed databases. Number 2, column filtering. And I love this because it's so easy here within this GUI. Once you've got your data in, then being able to filter down and look at just very specific data. Being able to lock things on the left of the screen with that freeze command. So as I scroll right, maybe I've got some key there on the left and keep everything in sync. Being able to select just certain fields for my editor browse, right? So being able to load that copy button, just check or uncheck those boxes to only see very specific data. And then easily save those requests off. So if I have selection criteria in certain fields I always want to look at, I can save that request off, and then it's just kind of a one-click from my little blue F FileAID button there on the top of the screen and execute those edit requests. Being able to look at the data in Hex, I know, but it's something we all have to do sometimes. So even though we're in a graphical interface, we can still see that Hex representation of the data and be able to compare files. Select files, right-click, compare, get a report of the differences, right? Drill down through our little bar graph there and see the results. Being able to search for data patterns across multiple files at once, across multiple file types at once, and seeing a report of the differences. And not only searching, but also if I want to search and do the update as well. And then be able to allocate new data sets with, again, just a right-click, right? Right-click's our friend in Topaz. Right-click, allocate a new data set, or copy to if you want to go ahead and copy data into that data set. and then being able to just drag things from one LPAR to another, from one host to another. Very simple, very quick and easy. That's our 10th cool thing on our list. And I thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to Janet.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Kevin. That was a great presentation. And we're getting a lot of great questions. But before we hand it off to the questions, I just wanted to take a moment to remind everybody we encourage you to fill out the survey before you leave today. Again, there will be 3 winners that will be selected from today's survey participants. And we also like to remind you and encourage everyone to check out the blogs on Inside Tech Talk. There's lots of great content on current hot topics out there. I think you'll find it really useful. And again, feel free to subscribe to get a weekly update on all the current blogs. Again, we've got a great one on File-AID Eclipse out there that just was published today. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Q&A with Kevin and Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got a number of questions coming in, so we'll try and get to as many as we can. One of the first ones that I'll try and field is, can you FTP multiple files at the same time? The host-to-host copy isn't actually FTPing the files. It is actually doing a real copy and transfer. It's not an FTP. But yes, that's one of the big strengths, or we see it anyway. If you have a large number of data sets, maybe you have a QA or testing environment and it's made up of n number of data sets, you can highlight all of those, select them all, and just simply do the right click and copy to, select the new host, and you, as Robin demoed, you can change the names of the files if you want. You can copy the data, all the same features of the copy. But yes, multiple data sets can be copied. I hope that answers that particular question. There's another question. Is a different license required to use the Topaz Workbench? And the answer to that is no. Topaz Workbench is included with your maintenance, with your products. So as long as you're licensed for the product, you can use Topaz Workbench. Topaz Workbench is available if you have any of the Compuware mainframe products licensed. You have to get to the FileAID edits. You would need FileAID NVS and or FileAID for IMS and or FileAID for DB2 to be installed on that particular LPAR. But it is no additional charge for Topaz Workbench. Is it possible to save filtering, field selections, etc. for the next time? When you specify selection criteria, specifically, I'll talk to the FileAID MVS editor. You can create that criteria. It's the same criteria that you would have built on the mainframe. So, and it can also be saved. It's saved back to a PDF that resides on the mainframe. So you can use existing criteria. You can create new criteria.
And then also everything you put into that request, right? You can save that request.
That request is also saved.
Mm-hmm. What's our next question?
I'm looking. I'm getting there.
What about, can I export data to a CSV file? Did we answer that one?
That's a good question. I saw that one. That's the one I was trying to find. The answer to that is yes, you can. You can export the data that you're editing or browsing to a CSV file, directly to Excel. I think you can take it to a PDF. So there's many options. And the right-clicking within the editor window itself provides you, different options for exporting. Robin demonstrated the navigation, but there's also export and various other commands that would be helpful there. So the answer is absolutely yes.
And I see one, Kevin. So can we compare files between different hosts?
Today, we cannot.
Okay.
That is something that Compuware is looking at. It's a little bit more complicated than the copy from host to host, but it is something we are looking at, and I hope in the near future to bring that forward.
Excellent. Thank you.
There was a question about interfacing with Endeavor. FileAID itself doesn't interface with Endeavor, but Topaz Workbench does allow you to work with the assets that you have within Endeavor itself.
I think we have time for maybe one more. Just for the audience that are still submitting questions, please feel free to continue to do so. We will likely put together a Q&A document that we will include in the post-follow-up communication that everyone that registered for the webcast will receive. So please continue to submit your questions.
One of the questions I'll take is there any color mode when editing files or PDSs, such as JCL or Rex? Within the FileAID data editor itself, no. We'll highlight data that's invalid, but when you're editing a JCL member or a source COBOL source library program, then our recommendation would be to use Slick Edit as your editor, which is included in Topaz Workbench. That will provide the coloring that you're asking for. It also provides some application assist. So if you're typing in a new COBOL statement, for example, you'll start to give some suggestions on what values to plug in there. Kind of a syntax diagram as you go along. And the same thing with JCL. So not within the data editors.
And I think we'll take one more. Robin and Kevin, question came in, is there any additional training?
Additional training?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Robin.
Well, there's lots of training. We can come on site to do training at your site. We're always available to do WebEx training for different groups within your company. There's also some online training modules that we have posted out on the internet at go.compuware.com/modules. Feel free to go look at those. So we try to provide lots of different modes of training as well, besides things like this, like these webinars that we're doing to the more public view, but we would certainly could tailor something for your particular site.
Great. We're wrapping up on time. We want to be respectful of everybody's day. So again, we're going to put together a Q&A document and get that out to you post-webcast. Hopefully you'll get that communication no later than tomorrow. We appreciate you responding to us with such positivity, and we hope you found today's webcast helpful. And thank you very much for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you.
About File-AID Eclipse you need to know. Before we begin today's presentation, there are a few housekeeping items that I'd like to address. Maximize the slide area. Click on the full screen mode icon at the top right corner of the slide area. For an optimal viewing experience, please ensure that you have checked system requirements along with bandwidth considerations. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the help link located via the question mark widget at the bottom left of your screen, where you will find details about system requirements and frequently asked questions. If you experience a blank screen during the webcast,